Royal watchers are absolutely stunned as an unprecedented power shift sends massive shockwaves vibrating through the entire British monarchy. The dawn of a completely new royal era? Do you stand behind William's reported administrative decision? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. That one of the most intense, high-stakes arguments inside elite royal circles would center entirely on a man who had never spent a single day operating as a working member of the royal family. Yet right behind the reinforced walls of the palace, a quiet, escalating discussion was reportedly transforming into something far larger than a basic question of recruiting extra helping hands for the firm. At the absolute center of this storm stood Tom Parker Bowles, a highly respected food writer, culinary critic, and author born in 1974, whose remarkably successful career had been built entirely independent of the world of glittering crowns, state ceremonies, and rigid constitutional obligations. For a large number of palace observers, the crisis threatening the modern monarchy seemed glaringly obvious. The ancient institution was buckling under a massive global workload that no longer aligned with the actual number of individuals available to execute it. The abrupt departure of Prince Harry from active royal life and his subsequent relocation to California permanently pulled one of the family's most recognizable and charismatic younger figures off the public stage. Simultaneously, the permanent toxic fallout surrounding Prince Andrew guaranteed that another senior royal would never be permitted to return to official public duties. Meanwhile, King Charles, now navigating his mid-70s, was forced to constantly balance his heavy public responsibilities with ongoing medical treatment and recovery, forcing his medical team to impose strict limitations on his daily schedule. As hundreds of distinct charities, global patronages, vital state functions, and public appearances continued to demand constant attention, the systemic pressure fell heavily on an increasingly shrinking inner circle of senior royals. A massive percentage of that institutional burden rested squarely on the shoulders of Prince William and Princess Anne, both of whom were already carrying some of the absolute heaviest responsibilities recorded within the modern institution. It was against this fragile backdrop that Queen Camilla reportedly recognized what she firmly believed was a highly practical, modern answer to their problems. Rather than analyzing the desperate situation through the rigid lens of ancient tradition, she is said to have viewed the crisis as a fundamental question of long-term institutional survival. Why not instantly draw vital public support from a figure who is already completely trusted by the family, heavily experienced infinitely further than simple calendar schedules and sudden staffing shortages? What appeared to others as a harmless, practical adjustment looked to them like something far more dangerous, the overt crossing of a major constitutional line. The intense disagreement was never simply about one man's character. It was about permanently defining exactly where official royal duty begins and exactly where private family connections must end. In an era when the monarchy faces entirely unprecedented external pressures, that precise distinction has become more critical than ever before. And according to those intimately familiar with the high-stakes discussions, it was how compelling or convenient the proposed solution may have initially seemed to the king. A stable monarchy depends on far more than simple tradition. It relies entirely on absolute boundaries that very few dare to challenge. So what exactly made a proposal involving Tom Parker Bowles trigger instant alarm bells behind palace walls? And why did a seemingly harmless idea rapidly evolve into a high-level debate with far-reaching consequences for the future of the crown itself? Let's uncover the intriguing details. A monarchy survives not simply through ancient tradition, but through rigid boundaries that every single player clearly understands. Some of these parameters are explicitly written into formal constitutional rules, while others exist through centuries of unwritten custom and deep public expectation. Together, they create the protective framework that allows the crown to function as a stable, trusted national institution. That is precisely why a proposal involving Tom Parker Bowles sparked far more intense concern behind closed palace doors than many external commentators ever realized. At first glance, the concept appeared entirely benign. After all, official royal patronages are frequently viewed by the general public as merely symbolic, ceremonial positions attached to charities, cultural organizations, medical foundations, and military veteran groups. Yet within the actual royal infrastructure, they carry an immense amount of weight. A royal patronage is never a prize, a vanity title, or a simple gesture of familial goodwill. It is a profound public declaration that a specific organization has successfully earned the total confidence and official backing of the British monarchy itself. For generations, that immense moral authority has rested on one unshakable principle. The specific individual representing the crown must be someone formally and legally connected to the institution through strict constitutional duty and a lifelong commitment to public service. When ordinary citizens look at a royal patron, they are expected to see an pressure to extend official state-sanctioned recognition to an ever-widening exact long-term risk that reportedly alarmed both Prince William and Princess Anne. Their fierce opposition was never described as a routine policy disagreement or a simple debate over daily procedure. Instead, they viewed the entire proposal as a direct challenge to the carefully defined, rigid structure that governs official royal service. When the controversial matter finally reached the high stage requiring formal institutional approval, the internal resistance came swiftly and incredibly decisively. Yet, the institutional response did not simply end with a quiet rejection. Serious questions soon emerged about exactly how this recommendation had managed to advance. Explicitly built on extreme caution and historical continuity, every single step matters. And in this specific case, the intense scrutiny surrounding those procedural steps became almost as significant as the explosive proposal that had triggered it. Whispered questions had been circulating through the palace corridors long before anyone was remotely prepared to answer them. What appeared at the start to be a routine... At the center of this historical debate was a proposal that many constitutional experts believed crossed a line rarely challenged in modern royal history. Supporters continued to shout that the monarchy desperately needed greater operational flexibility to adapt to contemporary realities. Critics, however, recognized something far more significant at stake. They pointed directly to earlier historical occasions when extended members of the family were entrusted with official responsibilities, noting that such unique arrangements had always been strictly governed by ironclad rules and clear public accountability. Those strict precedents, they argued, existed for a very specific reason: to ensure that personal family relationships never, under any circumstances, outweighed constitutional duty to the state. The deep concern spreading through the palace corridors was impossible to ignore. If established boundaries could be casually adjusted for one well-connected individual today, where would those expanding limits eventually end? Questions like these echoed through tense private meetings and high-level royal discussions, creating a massive institutional stalemate that neither faction seemed capable of breaking. Yet, while others remained completely focused on the immediate conflict, Prince William was quietly working behind the scenes, searching for a definitive solution. Rather than simply rejecting the original proposal out of hand and leaving an important operational gap unfilled, he pursued a brilliant alternative that perfectly reflected his long-term vision for a leaner, more efficient modern monarchy. His genius answer did not come from looking outside the institution, but from digging deep within its most dependable, trusted foundations. The figure he strategically chose was Peter Phillips, the eldest grandson of the late Queen Elizabeth II and the biological son of Princess Anne. Alongside his wife, Harriet Sperling, Peter represented a striking, refreshing contrast to the toxic controversy surrounding the Tom Parker Bowles debate. Unlike many individuals associated with royal life, Peter had built a highly successful, independent career entirely beyond the protective walls of the palace. Over the course of more than 2 decades, he gained invaluable corporate experience working within major global organizations, including Jaguar and Williams Formula One, developing heavy professional expertise in business leadership, global marketing, and large-scale corporate management. That impressive professional background made him uniquely suited to the evolving demands of modern charitable work, where fiscal efficiency and professional administration are becoming increasingly essential to public trust. Raised from birth with a strong sense of personal independence and intentionally never granted a formal royal title by his mother, Peter earned his respect through genuine personal achievement rather than inherited status. His unshakable reputation for absolute reliability, combined with a lifelong bond of deep personal trust with Prince William, made him the ultimate bulletproof choice. What had begun as a contentious, dangerous struggle over precedent suddenly evolved into something entirely different, a carefully calculated, brilliant strategy that perfectly preserved tradition while simultaneously offering a practical, modernized path forward, completely reshaping the conversation in a way very few insiders had anticipated. Prince William's long-term plans appeared to be unfolding quietly, far from the chaotic royal drama dominating the media headlines. But what was this little-noticed transformation taking shape deep behind palace walls? And why were Peter Phillips and Harriet Sperling suddenly emerging as the absolute key figures in a grand vision that could permanently redefine the monarchy's future? Let's find out. Very few people noticed it at first, but one of Prince William's most significant structural moves was unfolding far from the blinding glare of global royal headlines. While public attention remained entirely fixed on superficial palace intrigue and loud debates over the future of the crown, a much quieter, profound transformation was taking shape behind the scenes. For years, her intense efforts through the Royal Foundation Center for Early Childhood, historic moments inside the House of Windsor. Behind closed palace walls, deep concerns had reportedly been growing for months that the monarchy was carrying an increasingly heavy, unsustainable workload, already standing directly within the family. Peter and Harriet were presented as highly capable, deeply trusted, and entirely willing to contribute through the family's voluntary support network without creating a shred of public controversy or additional cost to the state. The sheer brilliance of the strategy lay entirely in its absolute simplicity. Instead of dangerously altering long-established constitutional traditions or stretching the legal boundaries of royal succession to accommodate non-bloodline relatives, it dramatically strengthened the institution through competence and modern credibility. By focusing heavily on raw service rather than elitist status, William introduced a brilliant model explicitly designed for a